between the word wonders and another word for wonders in Hebrew, plaos. And flois and plois, there's a difference Chassidus talks about, and what is the difference? So I didn't know the answer. I knew there was an answer, and by divine providence, I found this amazing Hasidic discourse that discusses this question. Hasidic discourse is called Divrei Elokim Chaim, the words of the living God, which indicate that Hasidic discourse is somewhat of it's not like a regular Torah teaching. It's like prophecy, if you will. But sometimes when you learn a Hasidic discourse, you feel like the Rebbe is not just talking to us; he's also talking to Hashem as well. And this discourse, to me, feels that way too. This discourse is based upon a pasuk that we say every Shabbos, and we also say in the Ata Haresas, and it's connected to the revelation of Hashem and Simchas Torah. The pasuk goes like this: "To the one who performs great miracles alone, because his kindness is everlasting." The Maamar is very short, but I still want to make sure we finish it today, so I'm going to just paraphrase it in English. Okay, let's go right to it. The one who performs great miracles alone, whenever a Maamar was released from Russia and brought to the Rebbe used the expression, the Maamar which has just been redeemed from imprisonment, which also highlights this idea of how a Maamar is the words of the living God, and they're there and they're ready and just need to be redeemed. So when the Rebbe would receive a discourse like that, he highlighted and spoke about it, and as in this Maamar was just released before the Rebbe's talk, which was on Chaf Tes Tishrei on Monday, Parshas Noach, Tavshin Chaf Beis. So let's go right to it. It says in one of the manuscripts that has just left imprisonment and to freedom, a Maamar of the Alter Rebbe, a short Maamar. It starts with these words, and the Alter Rebbe explains the word niflois. Wasn't it you asked this question last week?
No, I had the question difference between the...
I think you asked the question niflois and plois, wasn't it you? So that's the question this morning. What's the difference between niflois and plois?
What does the pei aleph stand for again?
In other places in the Torah, it says plois without a nun. So what's the emphasis over here with niflois with a nun? To understand this, the Alter Rebbe says by first prefacing the pasuk. Oh, I'm sorry, this sound is off. Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah, I was about to text you. Testing.
Okay. You asked this question when niflois and plois, right? Wasn't it you? No, it wasn't you. Okay. It says in the pasuk, because your kindness is greater and better than life. Your kindness is better than life. That means that God's kindness is better and higher than life. What does this mean? The word life includes within it many different levels. Life can mean many different levels within the entire spiritual cosmos. There is a level which isn't life yet. It's only a source for life. It's a root of life. In the language of the Gemara, Mechaya Chaim, the one who animates life, not the life itself, but the one who animates that life. So we'll understand what the idea of God's kindness being better than life by an example of kindness and love that a person bestows on someone that he loves. From a human being, we'll understand how it is by Hashem. As Chassidus emphasizes, my flesh, I can perceive Hashem. In human analogy, we'll get some insight into how things are in Shamayim. The attribute of love in a person's heart is higher than the physical favor that is needed and eventually reaches the one that you love. Because you love someone, so your love is greater than what you actually are doing. It's higher, different kind of energy. It's a more spiritual energy. It's a higher energy. So in this analogy, because you love someone, you give someone life. How do you give them life? Either give them money or you give them food. Sorry, I apologize again. I thought the sound was on, the sound was still off. I took the mute off, but I had to raise the volume. I apologize.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
What
So
does the pay olive stand for again? Plus what? This year.
This year's called Teishnas Plois Hareno. Plois without the nun. But that's on the surface. However, it could be with adding the arena to it. It may well be a niflois, higher kind of energy. We shall see. So I sent you the PDF. I'm paraphrasing on the second paragraph. So because you love someone, therefore you give them life. How do you give them life? You give them money, you give them food. So the love which is in your heart is above, it's loftier than the actual favor that's needed, and eventually reaches the one you love. And more, your feeling is not even called a source for the favor that you're doing. The physical sustenance that you're providing for someone else is not in the same realm as that positive feeling of love. But the actual inner feeling, from that actual inner feeling, there is another. There is a more of a, if you will, more of a tangible feeling that eventually motivates the bestowal of life. In Tanya, the Alter puts it this way. The Alter says, "Ava hisibas hachesed pnimiyusa." Love is the essence of kindness and its inner dimension. Love is the inner dimension of kindness. So there is the actual love, which is animating kindness, and there's your feeling of just love the person. So that's not a source for the kindness, but from that feeling of love, there then descends another more actionable feeling, if you will, to actually to have a connection to the person that you're bestowing the favor to, and to impact their life. And then after there's an actual positive feeling, there then is the actual bestowal of life. You actually give the person something, give them food, you give them money. So there is then a source for the life. So as it is in your heart, your feeling of love for the other person, there is no life, there's no source for life there. Oh, Dan, what a great surprise. Fantastic. So for listeners who just tuned in, I just want to say to you that we're going to learn something incredible over here about the way Hashem treats us in this world. And they're just giving an example of fathers and children, and a whole different mode of discipline that we never would have thought of on our own. Okay, and you can only possibly learn this mode of discipline the hard way. So let's go. So there are different levels of life. There is what's called, the different levels of kindness. There are different levels of kindness. There is what's called in Kabbalah. Kindness of the world. Kindness of the world means the pasuk says Hashem built the world on kindness. So there's kindness that.
Did you pick this? Did you pick this before or after I talked to you?
Before.
You know, Rise in Duranda. Have you heard this secret Kabbalah?
Rise in Duranda.
Yeah, Duranda, the secret of Duranda.
Oh. Okay. So I think you asked this question last week, Maamar, the difference in place and Plois, wasn't it you? Somebody asked this question. I can't remember who asked this question. Okay, so there is what's called kindness of the world. Kindness of the world means there's a kindness of Hashem that animates the world. That's the lowest level of kindness, and that's the Torah means when it says God built the world in kindness. It's a level of kindness which has a relationship to the world. This is the kindness of Hashem in the world of Atzilus. That's a source of kindness that emanates from there to this world. That level is called life, or alternatively, that level could perhaps be called the source of life because it's still in Atzilus, and perhaps be called the source of life. But then there's a higher level than that level of kindness, and that is called abundant kindness, or in Hebrew, Rav Chesed. That means it's also Chesed, but within Chesed itself, this is abundant Chesed that is beyond the regular kind of Chesed. So there's chesed itself. It's already not. It's not in Atzilus. How chesed of Atzilus is already in a sphere. It has a container, it has a limitation. It may be considered infinite from our perspective because it's in Atzilus. It's infinite kindness. But infinity also has different colors. I mean, just like in Atzilus, for example, in Atzilus we have chesed, which is infinite, and Gvura, which is infinite. They're both infinite. So chesed and Gvura, although they're both infinite, they are finite in the sense that they have a vessel and they have a certain way of functioning. Chesed functions in a chesed way, not in a Gvura way. And Gvura functions in its way. So the spheres, as they are in Atzilus, have filters, have limitations. Then there's something called Rav Chesed, great kindness. Great kindness is something which is from a level called Arich, level of Keser. Keser means the crown, and in every world, the Keser is the desire for that world. There is the world itself, the spheres of a world. Then there is Hashem's desire to create that world in the first place. So the Keser for Atzilus, the Keser above Atzilus, has within it different levels. It has what's called Arich and Atik. Just briefly, Arich is the desire for the creation. So it's a relationship to creation. And Atik is the pleasure Hashem has in creation. So Atik is more inner. It's more about Hashem's personal inner light, if you will. Arich is not a world yet. It's beyond the filtering of a vessel, beyond limitation of a vessel. But it's still a desire for creation. It's still somewhat connected to creation. It's a desire for creation. It's not chesed of Atzilus. It's not in a world. Doesn't have that limitation of a world. But it still is a desire for a world. It's not the world itself. It's a desire for a world. So in our discussion about chesed, Rav chesed means it's beyond the kindness of Atzilus, the limitation it's of Atzilus, but it's still somewhat connected to creation. But then there's a higher kind of kindness. And concerning this higher kind of kindness, the Torah says, your kindness is better than life. This, your kindness, refers to the essence of kindness. The Rebbe doesn't give a geographical location to this level of kindness in the spiritual cosmos. It doesn't say what level it is, but Rebbe says it's called Hashem's kindness itself. It's beyond Rav Chesed, beyond the abundant kindness, and it's something that as we shall see, a very, very good point, as we shall see exactly what this means in our lives, this kind of kindness. So the Torah says, it says in the pasuk, Hashem is chafetz, Hashem desires through kindness. There's a kindness itself, and Hashem is chafetz means like an inner, not just there's will and desire. Desire means there's something deep. Hashem's desire for kindness. It's something, a deep desire for kindness. It's beyond the spheres of Atzilus. Then there is chastacha, your kindness, the essence of Hashem's kindness. Perhaps this is connected to what Chassidus terms how Hashem is called the essence of goodness, and as nature of good, someone who is good to do good. So, because Hashem's kindness, what does He do? He gives us life, and life doesn't just mean bestowal of something physical in this world, but this causes a change of the highest level called life. Okay. So the Alter Rebbe says like this. When Hashem gives us kindness in life, the usual way He does this is we make what's called in Kabbalah Yisrus Sata. We make an arousal from below, and Hashem responds with arousal from above. How far can our arousal from below reach? So, in general, since Chassidus usually doesn't, in this Maamar, usually Chassidus gives the analogy of what's called Mayin Ein Etam. Mayin Ein Etam was a wellspring that supported the mikveh in the Beis Hamikdash. This wellspring filled the mikveh, and Chassidus says, how high was the mikveh? The Gemara says, how high was the mikveh? The mikveh couldn't have been higher than 23 amos. Why not? Because the wellspring that reached the mikveh is 23 amos, and you can't go higher than the source. Since the source is 23 amos, it can't be, the mikveh is higher than the source. So Chassidus draws this as an analogy for our efforts in impacting Hashem, so to speak, that a human effort can only reach as far as its source. What's considered our source? So we could say souls come from we just say in the morning blessings, you created the soul, you formed the soul, you made the soul. So we could describe different things as a source of the soul, different locations of the divine Godhead, of what is considered the source of the soul. But then there is beyond the actual levels of creation, there is the source of creation, the level of Keser, the God's desire for creation. So the farthest that our actions could reach is Arich. Arich is Hashem's desire for creation, Hashem's will for creation. That's as far as our mitzvahs, so to speak, can reach. That's as far as our efforts from below can reach, naturally. We'll see soon there's something else, but naturally, Hashem doesn't want it to be, in the language of the Zohar, a shameful bread, get everything for free. Hashem wants us to earn things not because Hashem is interested because that's what that's Hashem built us to be in a way that we naturally feel satisfied with something that we earned, and therefore Hashem creates the world that we earn things. We don't get everything for free. With shameful bread, we're left language of the Zohar. Shameful bread, getting something for free leaves us feeling lacking. So Hashem made the world in a way that we have to earn what we do. By the way, parenthetically, it's an amazing thing. I once saw that I thought that certain questions everybody asks, that if you would ask this question in fourth grade or whatever, the teacher would be like, "Stop asking foolish questions." But everybody asks all the foolish questions, which are really good questions. The question that I always wondered about was, why does Hashem have to make us that way? Hashem could have made us in a way that we love shameful bread. Shameful bread is so satisfying. Getting things for free is satisfying. Why does Hashem make us with a nature? The Gemara says that a person would rather have one measure he earned himself, in the language of the Gemara, than 9 he gets from someone else. Why does Hashem make us that way? So Rebbe said, because it's a good question, no? Why does Hashem make us? Hashem, we marry in a way that Hashem has to perform responsively to what we do because we wouldn't feel satisfied otherwise. Okay, I have a great idea. Make us a different makeup that we enjoy getting things for free. The answer is because Hashem wants us to be partners with Him in creation. And therefore Hashem created us specifically in a way that we want to, that our actions impact, so to speak, in Shemayim, and that we don't feel satisfied without creating something, doing something new. So getting back to our subject of
the higher level of chesed when we're successful. Because Hashem could just like rain chesed down. You could wake up in the morning, your bank account could be full, you'd be healthy, your kids could be listening and already dressed when you get home. Like all those things could just like happen, and you would just like go through this process of just like these good things happening, but they would have no substance to them. Right? It's like the coffee maker. I bought a new coffee maker. I programmed it, and I wondered like would it actually work? You know, I programmed it to start making coffee. We'd be like a robot. You just wake up and the coffee is there. But now, like, I still don't believe that you picked this Maamar before our ranking. Is Hashem wants us to be in the world and interact with people and be challenged to reveal the highest level of chesed, a higher level that He couldn't even bring down, like, because He decided that, not because it's our opinion.
So how do we impact it? How do we get there? This higher level of chesed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So we're going to see that in a second. But before we get there, just says clearly that since Hashem made the world in a way that arouses from below, it causes arousal from above. So basically, the more we do, the more we get. Thank God, there's more of our actions, so then there's more of a response in heaven. When there's less of our actions, there's less of a response in heaven. But then there's a higher kind of chesed, that we cannot reach. It just comes down without anything. But the question is, the Alter Rebbe asks, and never quotes in this Maamar, how can we possibly affect the essence of God's kindness? Because it's a place our actions cannot reach. So there he gives an example of a father and a child. That there is 2 ways a father could treat a child. One way is when the son is intelligent and he has some possibility of acting in some kind of orderly way. So then either he could act in a way that causes nachas to his father perfectly or partially, and there adds the word or less than partially. I know what less than partially means, but he can do something. So then the father treats the child according to what the child's understanding is, or according to what the child's behavior is. But when the father sees that the child has no connection to understanding and has no connection to acting in a methodical way, the child cannot act in a way that causes nachas to the father. So then the father is forced to act in a different way. That he just gives the child an abundance of kindness, not reckoning what the level of son is at. This is because his son is not in a level that he could be responsive in a consequential. He's not in the consequential level. He is not responsive at all, and therefore the father has no choice but just to give the child beyond what the child deserves, an abundance of kindness. That's the example the Alter Rebbe gives. We'll see what that analog is in a second. I just was thinking what that means practically in a behavior of a father and son. I was thinking perhaps two examples. One is a young child who's not yet. I think that's a simple meaning of this analogy. A younger child is just, I remember once someone telling me, till 2 years old, you can't spoil a child. Well, don't talk about spoiling them until they're 2. Because until 2 years old, it just gives them kindness, just abundance of kindness. They're not able to be responsive and whatever. It's just to pour kindness out. And perhaps also a child who's acting like a 2-year-old. Child who's grown up and they're not responding to anything. Sometimes parents do, incredible things. Okay, no rate of reaching out to that. I remember, unfortunately, this couple, the couple came here a few years ago. Their son is not keeping Shabbos, and they do whatever their child wants them to do. They travel the world to be with their child. He wants to go to California, and they go to California. They're Baba V'Chsidim, I think, and they just go out of their way just to give to their child. The child should see that they really care about him. They can't reach him any other way. But we can discuss discipline, but we don't have to, because the good news is that Hashem does this to us as well. There's 2 ways Hashem could treat us. One way is, and I quote, I'm paraphrasing from the Hebrew, one way is that Hashem gives us something, he treats us based upon our efforts, when there's arousal from below. And that also means that Hashem doesn't just give us limited to what we deserve, but Hashem also gives us something wondrous. Like just like we said before, but that there's the kindness of the world, and there's what's called abundant kindness. So Hashem doesn't just give us limited to what we do. Hashem also can increase that and give us abundance more than what we deserve, but still, that's still connected to Atzil. It's still connected to creation. That's arich. That's abundant kindness. But then when Hashem sees that with this kind of philosophy of being responsive to our actions, nothing's going to happen, nothing will be drawn down, because I guess nobody's home. What does Hashem do? So then, there's no power in those below here to arouse God's flow because of our deeds, like in this example, that the child is not close to understanding and he's not close to acting in a way that's appropriate. So then what Hashem does is he sends down an abundance in such an incredible amount of divine flow without reckoning how things are here in this world. Hashem sees that we're just not responding. So Hashem just sends down, he just rains it down. And that's what the pasuk means when it says Hashem performs miracles alone. The word miracles has an extra nun. In Hebrew, a nun in the beginning of a word indicates something that is being impacted by something else. The word miracles by itself, without the nun, means that Hashem is giving us something that's beyond what we deserve. We did something. Hashem gives us something incredibly back. Rav Chesed, the level of Arich, the level of Keser, beyond what we deserve. But it's still limited. Still, we did something. But then there is Hashem just acts upon us by himself. We're just the object of the miracle. We're not someone who is an active player in making that miracle happen. When we're not, so Hashem just decides to do it by himself. That's the meaning of the pasuk. He does miracles alone. There's 2 nuances in that phrase. One is that he does it by himself because we didn't deserve it. And the other nuance is this level is called alone because it's beyond the entire spiritual cosmos. The level of Arich has some relationship to creation. But then there's this miracles alone. It's from the essence of God's kindness beyond creation, without us deserving anything. Hashem does miracles alone. Now, from the booklet that the Rebbe received that was released from imprisonment in Russia, it seems that the Maamar of the Alter Rebbe, this Maamar, was said in continuation and in context to other discourses that were said in Simchas Torah. And the reason it was said in Simchas Torah is because this pasuk is said in the Ataresis. But we're not satisfied by just saying this is a Simchas Torah idea. It sounds like a Simchas Torah idea. So Hashem does in Simchas Torah, right? But no, just like all the matters. Let's do the last 2 paragraphs in page 162 inside. Amnam Kashem Shbechol Yoni Simchas Torah Kvani L'Shah Acharei Yom Shchom Meya Kol Shana Kula. All matters of Simchas Torah, Hashem sends them. Hashem's intent is they should continue throughout the entire year. So that throughout the year, the divine flow should descend without any coverings, without any concealment, without any contractions. Just like the the incredible revelation on Simchas Torah, that Simchas Torah is a time when there's no concealment, no contraction. That's how it is then. So the purpose of Simchas Torah is that it should continue. So just like the joy is supposed to continue, so too the divine flow that comes to the world in that time is supposed to continue. How the movements, what's understood, so too is this true regarding the great miracles that Hashem performs alone. God's intent in sending this to the world is that it should continue throughout the year. As great as divine flow would be based upon our actions, based upon giving something to the child, based upon their understanding, based upon their behavior, but still, Jews aren't satisfied with that. Why? We're satisfied with this. Since this is something which has a connection to creation, that's not what Jews pray for and hope for. That's not what Jews ask for. Since it's limited to creation, it's not like what Jews want. How come we know this is not what Jews want? This is similar to the idea that the Alter Rebbe said. Alter Rebbe said, I don't want anything. I don't want your Gan Eden. I don't want your Elam Haba. All I want is you alone. By the way, whenever the Rebbe would say this in a Maamar, they would very often cry. In the notes over here, they usually say by the Farbrengen what the Rebbe was doing, but doesn't mention that here. Just want to point that out. Anyways, so just like the Alter Rebbe said, I only want you alone. So too, a Jew isn't satisfied with the limited sustenance that comes from the level called the kindness of the world, or the level called the kindness, abundant kindness. Rather, a Jew asks for chastacha, for your kindness, which is beyond everything. So, since this Maamar the Alter Rebbe was printed in the Maamar Tzemach Tzedek, the Tzemach Tzedek wrote a Maamar called the Sort. By the way, Tzemach Tzedek's Maamarim were written when he was 14 years old. The Maamar, all the Maamar Derech Tzedek were written. Tzemach Tzedek was 14. The hardest one is Tresh Mitzvah Tefillah, which it says specifically about that Maamar. The book was written over a period of years, but that Maamar specifically, I think it says it was written when he was 14 years old. Unbelievable. It's one of the hardest Maamarim. Anyways, in that Maamar, the Tzemach Tzedek quotes the Alter Rebbe, who says, all I want is you alone. So the Rebbe says, since this is printed in this Maamar, Chassidim learn this, and this affects their meditation, and affects their prayer. And through the Chassidim, this continues and is drawn and extends to all the Jewish people. So it's understood that some little bit of what the Alter Rebbe had has relevance to every single one of us. And this has to give us more life in our service of Hashem. To cause that Hashem should perform miracles alone. What this means is, how can we cause Hashem to perform miracles alone? What this means is, it's very brief over here. It says in the Gemara, the words of Torah are poor in one place and rich in others. I'll just translate the words and I'll say what I think it means. That means a Jew should serve Hashem in a way that it causes Hashem's miracles to descend. The one who makes great miracles alone, that a Jew should make the will of Hashem. The Jew should cause Hashem to want this. And not just that Hashem should make wonders, but also niflois, and not just niflois, but niflois deilos, and not just for one day, but for the whole year. What I think this means is, it says in the teachings of Zisha Maggid says the difference between the first section of Shema and the second section of Shema. The Gemara says that in the first section of Shema it doesn't mention working. In the second section of Shema it does mention working. And the Gemara says that the first section of Shema, the Jewish people aren't serving Hashem properly, and that's why they have to work. And the second section of Shema, the first section they are serving Hashem properly, therefore there's no work. In the second section, they aren't serving Hashem properly, and therefore they have to work. So Mzisha Maggid says, what's the difference between the first section of Shema and the second section of Shema? And he says the first section of Shema has in it the words, not just all your heart and soul. The first section of Shema also said with all your might, which Mendel Futterfass used to say, the word mo'oid means very much. What difference if you like chocolate? If you like it very much. There's a big difference. You like it very much. When you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is have a bite of chocolate. They're chocoholics. So where is your zayer, where is your very much? What do you very much? What in you have very much things you're excessive about. So the idea of causing Hashem to do tremendous wonders is by us acting in a way which is beyond ourselves, which is b'chol me'edecha, beyond the limitations, so that when we act in a wondrous way, as Rebbe said in another place, that causes Hashem to act in a wondrous way too. And so a Jew has to not be satisfied with what Hashem is doing the simplest Torah. He has to cause that Hashem should do these wonders, not just wonders, but niflois, not just wonders and niflois, but beyond niflois deals, great within that category of niflois, great wonders throughout the year. So I'm going to just read the last part of outside. And we can connect this with the teaching of Baal Shem Tov, the previous Rebbe quotes on this verse. Hashem performs miracles alone because His kindness is everlasting. That whatever God does, even in this material world, is not just considered a wonder, but it's considered a great wonder that He alone does. Whatever Hashem does is considered for us, the truth is, it's considered a great wonder. And it's considered such a great wonder that only He really knows about them. And the previous Rebbe then goes on to translate at the end of the pasuk, because His kindness is everlasting. The word because, ki, has two letters, chaf and yud. Chaf is 20, yud is 10. That equals to 30. That refers to the 30 lower vessels of the spheres of Midas and Malchus Atzilus, which those 30 vessels become the lights. The vessels of Atzilus become the lights of the worlds beneath it. So through God's kindness emanating from the world of beyond creation, goes through the vessels of Atzilus until it reaches the Olam, until it reaches the world. As we said earlier, that the purpose of the Joy Simchas Torah is that it should continue throughout the year. The purpose is that the miracles should go on throughout the year too. So too, this should be for us. The great wonders that Hashem alone knows about. This level called the Neflois Deus Lavadi, the level of Hashem's miracles that He alone performs, should be drawn down into the world, into this physical corporal world, lower than 10 tefachim, in an open and clear way, in open kindness, which will bring children, health, and comfortable parnasa. That's the end of the minor. That Hashem is saying to us, not just Simchas Torah, something we have to cause to happen throughout the whole year, through us acting also in a miraculous way, b'chol me'edecha, beyond our limitations. Any questions, comments, criticism? So I think the Rebbe is saying over here is that the Eibishter can treat us, measure for measure, or He could just give us great abundance. Sometimes Hashem does that when we're totally undeserving. Hashem does it because He sees there's no one to talk to. But it's also possible for us to, as with the child, the child is not listening at all, so the parents are scratching their heads. What should we give the child now to get their attention? But there's also a way we could do this in a positive way. By us acting doing Hashem's will, acting miraculous way ourselves, we could trigger also that Hashem should treat us in miraculous ways too, beyond the regular system. We could go beyond the system. Any other questions, comments, and criticism? No. Okay.